So somehow just tell us about your love story.
I'll start. We've had a little practice. We did this first service also. But basically what it came down to, Lou and I were in our early 20s and living the life. And we both showed up at the same Bible study. Originally, I was still on the fence as far as becoming a Christian and getting my life all straightened around. And somebody talked me into going. And I can remember sitting there, and this, cute girl comes in, sits down, turns around, looks at me, and says, "Hi." Well, of course, I said hi back. And then she turned around, and I didn't go back for a year. But when I did go back, things have changed a little bit. But I'd gotten my life around and was a far better Christian, whatever that may have meant in those days. And anyhow, she took notice of me that time, and
yes, I did.
And I of her. So we started dating, and eventually got married and started a family.
Well, one of the things too that I lived up in Warren. I was rooming with another girlfriend, and we were both Christians, and we sat down one night and we made a list of what we were looking for in a future husband, and so I had this list, and of course at first it was like I wanted him to love Jesus with all of his heart and to serve the Lord and be a man of God. But then I had a lot of physical stuff, I wanted him, I love beards. I wanted a guy with a beard, and even his nose, I just have always loved, I wanted that type of nose. And I mean, we'll just move right
We're
along.
online this time, Lou.
Oh,
At first service we weren't, but you can say whatever you want to.
But anyway, when Tom walked in, my girlfriend was sitting beside me, and she's nudging me, and she goes, "That guy has everything that you want. He's on your list. He's a lister," And I'm like, "Yes, he is." So, all right, let's go to the next question.
Hey, in my defense, I didn't have a list. But the one thing I knew is I wanted a Christian woman to be my wife, and I found one.
That's right.
So, as we're all enjoying right now, the most common word to describe you two is fun. So what's the most fun thing about being married to each other?
Laughing together. I mean,
Yeah.
we laugh a lot. We have fun together. I love being with Tom. That's never changed down through the years. There's nobody I'd want to, hang out with more than Tom.
Yeah, we try to have fun, laugh, and do different things. We share a lot of common interests, so that makes it easy, when we're trying to find things to do and be with each other. But you've known Lou. She's pretty hilarious most of the time. What you see in public is what we see at home. And, we have fun both places. I'll walk into the kitchen, she'll be laughing because she just did something silly. And I am not quite as silly as she is, so I kind of look at her, but
he's pretty
that's
funny. He has he has a dry sense of humor. He's funny.
So what's a great date night for each of you?
I was thinking about last year we did, like a lot of times, you think, oh, a date night, spending a lot of money, and that's really fun, and I love that. But It can be like we take our bikes on the bike trail. And last year, or was it 2 years ago?
2 years ago.
Tom mapped out every single trail in the area, and that summer we went on every single bicycle trail within a certain radius, and that was fun. And also, something I want to recommend is when the tall ships come up to Erie, when they come into the harbor, that was one of the best dates ever. We went on the Victorian Princess and went out into the bay, and the boats, the tall ships came around us, and then they have fireworks afterwards and places to eat, and I mean, there is so much to do locally too, and yeah.
That was one of those days that all fell together perfectly. You know, they don't happen very often. I saved a man from drowning that day.
He did.
You know, I'm a hero,
He
in
did.
case you didn't know.
It ended.
You know, just letting you know.
It is true. There was a drunk, and we were sitting there with our
No,
little,
it wasn't Lou.
we were sitting at the end of the dock there with our chairs, and this drunk just came walking right over and just walked right into the bay. And my husband just jumped up and saved him. I mean, like, he came up for air, and Tom was there to jerk him up, and it was pretty amazing. So it was like a fabulous night, and we're getting off course here.
Well,
Okay.
none of that was said at first service, so
We've had time to think a little more.
evidently. You were talking about the home runs you hit. You left out saving someone.
Yeah, well, you know, it's not all about me.
All right, so let's talk a little more about your relationship. So, how have you guys learned to handle conflict?
Okay, I'll go first. Yeah, it's what I said at first service. Yes, dear. But in all reality, though, one of the things that we've talked about is communication. If you communicate with each other, a lot of small things don't grow into big things. Yes, we've had our arguments and fights and, you know, whatever. But, you know, once you can get your emotions under control and settle down, we talk things out and come to, you know, an agreement. But, yeah, it's all about talking and getting it out there.
Yep. I remember early on in our marriage, we went to a marriage seminar, and I liked how it was presented because it was like, make a good marriage better. You know, it wasn't like if your marriage is falling apart, you know, come. And so Tom and I were like, hey, we were a pretty good marriage, let's make it better. But it was during that time that Tom and I really learned to communicate. And both of us look at that time and think, we don't know what exactly happened, but we really learned to share during that.
Yeah. So how do you keep Christ at the center of your marriage?
We pray every night together. That's a priority. Before we get, when we get into bed, we hold hands and we always pray.
Yeah, it's a lot easier when you have two people who love Christ and are committed to keeping him centered and bringing him into your marriage. But, I mean, it still takes work. You still have to concentrate on keeping him there. I mean, like before dinner, lunch, breakfast, whatever, we always say grace. And before big decisions, we pray about them. Yeah, all those things.
Yeah. So one of the common things we hear about you guys, along with you being fun, is that you have great kids.
Yes.
Like Doug and Molly are both great. So how did you guys raise great kids?
Well, something that came to my mind, which is the reason why. When Tom and I were single and thinking about having a baby, I said the most serious prayer that I've ever prayed in my life to the Lord. And I said, I would rather be barren my entire life than go through life, have a child, go through life, and have it never accept Christ. That would kill me. And so I asked the Lord, I said, if Tom and I are to have children, then that will be a sign that those children will know the Lord. And the Lord kept that promise. And so like when Doug was born, like boom, 3 months later I got pregnant. And so I just had that peace. And then when Doug was born, like he was 3 years old when he first accepted the Lord. He couldn't even say, he'd say, I asked Jesus into my heart. I mean, he couldn't even talk right. But, he remembers that. And then, yes, there were times when he recommitted his life. And the same with Molly. We were able to lead her to the Lord. And I'm going to do a little promotion for my book. I have this book called Bless Your Children Every Day by Mary Ellen Swoop. And I have literally worn it out. I wore the cover off, and now it's falling apart. But it has prayers to pray for your children in it. And here, just open that up and just kind of show. But anyway, my kids, before they'd go to school, I'd always bless them. And, oh yeah, there's a lot of stuff in there.
It's falling apart.
But anyway, there's blessings in there. And so every day before they'd go to school, we'd stand at the door, and I would lay my hands on them, and I would read that. And yeah, you can say name it and claim it. Name it and claim it for your kids, people. That's what's important. And so I would pray that over them, and I would believe it. And as they grew, they just came to expect that. I mean, I remember my son, it was his first job, and he called me one day and he said, "Mom, what was my blessing today?" Because he knew that even though they're out of the house, I still do it. So, yeah.
That's really cool. So what's one piece of advice you would give to other married couples to wrap things up?
I forgot what we said in the first service.
I would just say, speak positively of your mate.
Yeah.
Always speak well of each other, and compliments, and it goes a long ways. And they're our most important, the most important person in your life. So speak well of them.
Yeah. Thank you, Cheryl. She reminded me of what I said. Communication, not only between us, but also with our children. We had set rules. We all do that as parents, and sticking to those rules, not just for them, but for you also. I remember a time that we had made a contract. Doug had signed it because he was dealing with a problem in his life, or at least we were. And so we said, okay, that's the way it is. This happens again. You know what the consequences are. We read this in a book somewhere that told us this was a really good thing to do. It was, because he repeated his problem once again, and he had to pay a penalty. And it broke our hearts, all of us together. And it was a big learning day for him, and it was a very emotional day for us, because you don't like to see your kids suffer, but they got to know there's a penalty. And so keeping those lines of communication open to your kids, and being consistent so they know what to expect.
Cool. All right, did you guys enjoy hearing from Tom and Lou? Thank you guys.